Now I'm catching you.
I'm videoing you.
I'm videoing you.
How did you and I meet?
Well, I think you gave me a call, and I think I did something like you made a comment about my accent, and I said I sound like the governor of California.
You're right. I'm the governor of California.
He said something really nice about me on the Top Sales World sort of show that Farrington did, and you were the
That's
host.
right.
I heard what you said, and it was so nice, and I never met you, so we were chatting on Google, and we started talking, and as soon as I heard your voice with the Austrian accent, I said, you sound just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I said, go ahead and say, this is Arnold. And you went into your very, very strong Austrian accent and stayed in character for probably about 2 minutes. That's when I got an idea to what your real character is. It's playful.
On the first try.
If you want to call Gerhard anything, and if you want to understand what his soul is made of, I promise it's made of playfulness.
Lincoln Memorial. And how awesome is that?
This whole monument is about this idea of keeping the Union together. And he emancipated the slaves at one point, but before that he was on the fence because his primary objective was keep the Union together. And he said if freeing the slaves would keep the Union together, he'd do that. If not freeing the slaves would keep the Union together, he would do that. If it was half and half, he would do that. But his conscience eventually got the better of him, and he decided to emancipate all slaves in the United States, which was probably the most monumental decision he ever made. Let's talk about Washington. Washington was, for the Revolutionary War and the propping up of this country, the indispensable man. It couldn't have been done without him, and the truth of the matter is, he was not a great military leader before that time, but he wanted the job, and he was 6'2", and he showed up at the Continental Congress literally wearing his military uniform, which gave everyone the idea what his presence looked like. And it was that presence that gave people the confidence to believe in Washington. But when you think about how scary it must have been to be Washington and to have the whole fate of a people resting on your decision to go up against what was the greatest superpower of all time, up until that time, Washington was exactly the right man to lead because he had the courage, he had the determination, he was resourceful when he didn't have horses, when he didn't have men, when he didn't have food, when he didn't have ammunition. He still found a way to win. And I love the Washington Monument because I think without Washington, we probably wouldn't have made it through that first war, and we probably wouldn't have a country that looks like this today.
We are at the Vietnam Memorial, and I was fortunate now to be part of that amazing event in American history. But you have a relative that's memorialized here, and I can feel the heartache that that war has created for many mothers and for many, many families.
There is just over 50,000 names on this wall, and my uncle, my mom's youngest brother out of 4 brothers, there were 5 of them altogether, Francis DeVille, it's on slate 35, line 76. I check it out every time that I'm here, and just think about the sacrifice that all these men, including my uncle, made at a time when it didn't make any sense. The carving, the engraving on this wall is absolutely perfect. It's Jefferson just riffing on the idea that he doesn't really like to see laws changed sort of ad hoc or because somebody has a whim. But he recognized even then that what they were writing was going to need to be changed by future generations, because what the wall says right here, is that we might as well require a man to wear still the coat which fitted him when he was a boy, as civilized society to remain ever under the regime of their barbarous ancestors. And he knew that there was this breaking from the past that was going to happen again and again and again as human beings collectively grew and developed over time.
Wayne Dyer reminded me a long time ago. He says in the interview, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And then I said, you know, how do you have a happy childhood? And he says, very simple, you play more. Everybody wants to play and engage in a different way than what we learned in school. We engage mostly with our left brain, and by playing we engage the creative brain, and then we come up with new ideas. And we live in an age where there's so much technology and there's not much room to play, and technology tends to push people into a corner where they're turned into human doings, and we are human beings, so we need to learn to counteract that and play more.
He's got an apple juice and a water and a cookie and a 20.
Where in the world are we? We are lost.